Welcome to the Parent Advocacy Resource Team for all ages and stages of parenthood. I'm Irene Gouge, founder of Loving Lessons Sleep Consulting and Postpartum Doula Solutions, and I'm today's host of Parent Advocacy Resource Team. We partner with parents to create a network of trusted professionals, like my special guest today, to provide families with solutions to navigate the journey of being a family. We do this through education, advocacy, empowerment, and connection. I'm super excited to introduce Betsy Laughter. What a great last name.
Thank you.
Motherhood is one of the most amazing experiences in life. At the same time, can be one of the most challenging experiences you will ever have. That is such a true statement, Betsy. She's a life coach who helps mothers work to develop practical perspectives and discover the strengths she already possesses so she can embrace motherhood with confidence. That's so beautiful, Betsy.
Thank you.
I love it. And so it's Betsy Laughter, is that correct?
Yes. Well, if you ask me, and the majority of the family, it is Laughter. My father-in-law would say it's Lauder. So I will honor that, but I mean, it is what it is and might as well go with it. So yes. And I believe that we need a little more laughter in the world. So That's what I'm going with.
I love it. And especially in motherhood, I love what you say, figuring out those strengths that we already possess.
Yes, absolutely.
I know we're going to dive into that more, but one of our first segments that we talk about here at the Part Show is where we talk about things we might not do or say in parenthood. Sometimes there's things we might have not thought we might do. Is there something that you thought you would never say?
Before I became a mother, I just knew that was like the next phase of my life, and I was excited for it. I mean, of course. And then once I got into it, I didn't realize how much I was going to miss life before children. The freedoms, just less responsibility. It felt less intense. And I even still some days miss that. And I felt a lot of shame for thinking that and feeling it. And then because of what I do, when I started having open conversations with people and starting to say the quiet part out loud, I realized how many people felt the same way. And so I think that's something that happens a lot with motherhood, is that we hold these thoughts quiet and then we just bury ourselves in the shame of it, as opposed to just saying the truth.
Yeah. Betsy, I could not agree more with that statement. I hear that from parents, like through sleep coaching or postpartum doula work. They want to say something and it sounds bad saying it out loud.
Yeah.
But it's like just truthful because it's just a hard moment.
Yes.
But like you, I think that there's moments where it's like, it would have been great to escape some of those everyday adulting responsibilities.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Like sometimes I'm like, I just don't even want to adult. Like, could I just be a toddler? Like,
yes, I would love to build a fort in my living room and just stay there for the afternoon. In fact, I might do that today.
I think that sometimes we forget that play piece.
Yes. Yeah. And that is important. I think that goes into how important, and this is a lot of what I do with moms, is helping them to center themselves a little bit, especially when they're preparing for a baby. There's so much planning for the baby that they forget to kind of center themselves and check in with who they are, so that as they step into this new role, things are obviously going to change, and we want that. And sometimes the best part of us comes out in this new role.
Sure.
But we still have to be able to check in with ourselves. And if we haven't done that prior or shortly after having children, we can lose ourselves. Yeah. And then it's, when the kids hit 10 years old and they don't need you in the same way. And you're like, I don't know who I am. And I don't want to see moms struggle in that way. So that's actually part of what I do with my clients, or even in my workshop that I'm about to launch, is sort of centering ourselves and checking in, sort of a self-assessment.
Yeah.
So,
I think that oftentimes we forget, like, because I think that there's parenting and then there's parenthood, right?
yes.
And in parenting, like, it's like what we're doing for our child always, but in parenthood, it's all of us in relationship, and we forget we're in relationship with one another.
Yes, absolutely. And we need one another.
We do.
And I'll just say this too, is that goes into another thing that I think is very important. We are no longer in a world, or maybe just, no, I think it's the whole world in general, but I can only speak to the country, where people don't stay generally in the same place where they were born.
Mm-hmm.
And so having that village around you, it's one thing when you're born and raised in an area and you have your family in the same area, but the majority of people are coming in and they know no one.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what it is, but making friends as an adult is a whole lot harder.
It is.
Because we have these ideas instead of, when you're 4 and you're just like, hey, let's be friends. Okay, that works.
Right. You're like, here's a car, here's a sand bucket. Let's just go dig and do this.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the other part of why I recognize the need for, because, people hear life coach and they're like, what, why would I need that?
Yeah. So Betsy, tell me a little bit, tell me how you got started in this, and then tell me a little bit about what life coaching looks like for moms.
So I've been a social worker hurts my feelings to say how long, for 23 years. And I've always worked in the hospital setting. It's just where I was led. Mm-hmm. And the majority of that time I have worked on mother-baby units. So working with first-time parents, like right out of the gate. And I loved it, but there's a lot of burnout that comes with that. And about 7 years ago, I had 5 conversations in 1 week, 5 different people randomly tell me that I should consider being a life coach. And I had no idea what that was. I was like, I'm not into sports. I don't understand this. Like it just didn't make sense. And so I started looking, because sometimes I believe that when things like that happen, those are not accidents.
Right.
And so I kept started looking into it, and I thought, okay, so basically I'm taking what I've learned from my life experiences, what I've learned professionally, all of my training, and combining that to help people prepare for whatever this stage in life that they're going into. And so, I knew I wanted to do that, but then I thought, okay, who needs the most support? And I thought moms need the most support. And partly because I needed that when I became a mother. Mm-hmm. And so that's sort of why. But what I just feel like we are told so many, I don't want to say lies. It's not lies. It's just,
there's a lot of messages, I think, maybe.
Yeah. Between what's out, just social media, movies for that matter, or, even well-meaning people talk about how amazing. And I guess you can use amazing in a lot of different ways, but sure. I think it's always, the message is always just how wonderful and perfect and all of these things, and how your instincts kick in and it's an instant love. And when my son was born, it was none of those things. My birth experience was not ideal. And then I thought that the moment I saw him, I would fall in love with him. Now, he's heard me say this enough, and he and I have had conversations, so I don't want it to sound like I didn't love my son. Sure. I do. He's an amazing human being.
But I think, Betsy, what you're addressing here is like the reality.
Yes.
Really what takes place sometimes that maybe is unspoken. And I love that you're bringing a voice to that.
Absolutely. So part of what I do, my preference is to work with moms before they have their babies. But sometimes I don't always catch people in that way, because they're still in the excitement phase, which we need that. Absolutely. But I believe in being practical about the changes that are coming. When you think about the loss of sleep, You think about literally the changes in perspectives and priorities, all of those things that change, relationships change, whether it's with your spouse, your partner, your employer, your neighbor. I mean, everything changes when you add someone into the mix. And so all of that at one time can be very overwhelming.
For sure.
And so what I like to do is break it down. Let's look at what these might, and I say might look like, because I can't say exactly what it's going to be. But I've observed and experienced over the years of working with thousands of mothers. I've observed all of this, and there are common trends, and it doesn't matter what culture they come from.
For sure.
Now culture also plays a factor into this. And so we address those things. So anyway, my goal is to help moms at least have an understanding of what they might be walking into, so that when those moments hit, it's not a complete shock.
Right.
And they actually understand that they have the skills already within them to navigate this, and they don't always have to look outward. Because one of the things I think is a huge shame is the comparison that people have. And the minute someone starts feeling less than, then we get into the shame, and I'm not doing this right. And that's just, you're just setting yourself up for disaster.
Betsy, I think one of the things that's important to recognize is that a lot of times moms fall into like blaming themselves for those things, when the reality was that was going to happen anyway. It was going to be hard, but was I prepared? Do I have am I equipped with tools to know how to get through some of that?
Yes, absolutely. And another thing that I think is important, this is something that's actually come up with some of the mothers I've worked with recently. Children might be born with a medical condition, and it turns out that mother has had that her life as well. And so what they tend to do is blame themselves that they gave their babies something.
Right.
But I'm real big on flipping the script a little bit.
That's a great tool.
Because I think it helps make it manageable. And so, my take is, okay, well, there's one way to look at it, but you can also look at it in, you've experienced this condition. You know how to manage it. So perhaps it's perfect that you have the skills to help your child navigate this. Not that it's a medical condition, but my son is an empath. And being a boy in the South, that's not always seen, with a positive light. And I am a huge empath. And I know what it's like to be told you're oversensitive or some of those things. Being an empath can actually be quite a strength.
Oh, it's a burden sometimes, for sure.
Exactly.
It's so overwhelming, and to not know that, like, what's mine, what's yours, and like where it begins and ends. Like, me too. I'm just saying.
But what I found out as I watched him grow was, I experienced all those challenges as a child, as an empath, and it took me into adulthood to learn that was actually my superpower in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So I'm his mother, and I can show him how to navigate this and make it work for him, so he doesn't have the same struggles, if that makes sense. So I think there's a lot of things that we see in a negative light that we're carrying forward or giving to our children, but in fact, they're going to be that way anyway. We're just equipped to help them navigate that. Right. So,
and I think too, Betsy, one of the things that comes to mind is I find that a lot of times families I'm working with, they don't recognize that that's their superpower. They don't realize that this is what makes them unique and needed, their perspective.
Yes.
Like their gifts and talents that they're going to be sharing with the world. And, I think for me and my journey, I very similar to what you're sharing, but I realized like I didn't have the words to communicate effectively. And so learning that skill set, I mean, it took a lot of therapy and years to kind of work through, but it was such a blessing. And now like we can have hard conversations that, you know, my parents didn't have with me, but
Right.
recognizing like, hey, like this is life. We can be equipped through it, but it's hard stuff.
Yeah. So that as a coach, those are the things that I one, work with them to prepare for some of the changes that they're going to experience, but I also further in when they hit those challenges, I'm there to help them see that that's actually their strengths.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like holding up a mirror
Mm-hmm.
and saying, okay, look at it this way, but maybe look at it this way. And when you have people who haven't had their village locally, they're not there and they don't have that voice of confidence and sort of that cheerleader there for them.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of where I can step in, but also just reminding them that they're doing great. And I truly, and I believe this, regardless of how a child comes into someone's life, whether it's their biological child, it's adoption, however that child ends up, I truly believe that every parent is the perfect parent for that child.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah, I believe that too. Hands down for sure. And you're going to learn exactly what you need to learn.
Yes.
Through that child for
Yes.
sure. I think it's interesting. Something you said earlier was like the messaging that we get. And I think like, you know, I look at pictures, right? Like how many beautiful pictures are there on Instagram, you know, and everyone like just looks so lovely and everyone's listening and,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then like literally like before the picture and the after the picture is what I want to know and see, which people are not always talking about those details.
Oh, it's so funny that you say that. My favorite picture of my family from several years ago when my kids were tiny. It's a Christmas picture. It was, everything was coordinated, you know,
matching outfits.
Yes, it was, you know, not too much of anything, just the right, whatever.
Yeah.
But the argument and the crying, my crying that was happening before, like, it's weird because when I embraced all of that, the mess of life that comes with parenthood.
Yeah.
That's where the beauty is, I actually think. Mm-hmm. And so that's another thing I talk with moms about. I'm like, you know what? Embrace the mess, because that's the stuff. Those are the random memories that will mean way more to you than ultimately the perfect picture. Like I see the picture, it's great. It's right. What I know happened before and after.
Yeah.
That's the stuff. Another picture that I have, and this is probably one of my treasures, is it was one of those days where I had, because my daughter was a preemie. And so that was its whole experience too. So here I was with a 21-month-old and now a preemie. We get home. I didn't know what I was outnumbered. Yeah. I mean, my husband's here, but still we were completely outnumbered, you know.
For sure. Yeah, that's really hard.
And I was just in one of those days where I was trying so hard to have the perfect home and keep everything neat and all of the things. And I finally just got to a point of breaking. And my son was pulling things out of the cabinet and gotten into the flour. You know, I said, never mind. And we literally played in the floor with flour. My daughter was in her bouncy seat covered in flour. My son the floor was disaster, but that was the best day.
Yeah. That was a great release.
Absolutely.
Probably to let go. Yeah. I love that. I could go on and on. I could tell you some great parenting moments. You know what? I'm going to encourage people to, you know, if you have a parenting moment, like in the mess, write it down in the comments. Yes. Below this video. Let us know your messy best parenting moment, because I think that's really important. Yeah. I think about how many pots and pans and what kind of singing, like the joyful noise my children heard.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
I just made up songs. I don't even know what I was singing, but it was so good. And it was like so fun. And Like
the creativity of mothers when you start like just making things up for fun just to get through the day.
The voices and the change, like it's
Yes.
just great. And I think again, like sometimes like one of the things I've had to learn is not to take myself so seriously.
Oh, the more you try to hang on to that and this image that you've tried to create, guaranteed they're going to break you of it.
For sure.
And the harder you fight, the worse it's going to be. It's a whole lot easier just to give in to where it's taking you.
Mm-hmm.
It's an amazing experience.
That it
Absolutely.
Is. Yeah. Amazing and all kinds of crazy.
Messy. Just
messy.
Yeah.
So Betsy, if someone is looking to possibly connect with you because they're like, you know what, I am in this season of motherhood and I'm struggling, how would they learn about you?
Well, they can go to my website, which is as easy as I could make it, betsylaughter.com.
Great.
They also can find me on Instagram or Facebook, and my handle is Laughter Makes Everything Better. I mean, how could I not use that? I mean, I had
use
to.
the name.
Right. Absolutely. Well, and I think too, just to associate motherhood and laughter, because we need that. We need that. So they can find me there. I am currently offering, so I work with expectant and brand new moms, but I'm also working with moms of toddlers. Because we have lots of stuff, postpartum support groups and everything for first time or brand new moms, but it's when they hit the toddler stage, we're dealing with a whole new being, and you're trying to reason with someone who is mad that, they have skin. So it's, you kind of need that support too. So I actually, through my website, they can find some information about the toddler mom group that I have.
Great.
And I'm also excited. I've already put it on my website, but I'm still editing, but I have a course that I'm launching for first-time moms called Embracing Motherhood. I'll just show you this real quick.
Oh, very exciting.
This is my workbook. And it just basically for anybody who maybe doesn't want to do coaching, although I personally think it would be the way to go. The course is something that people can kind of navigate on their own and work through the process of things that I try to educate people about, just the things to look out for, to be prepared for just in case.
Sure.
And some tool, kind of help them build their toolkit for themselves once baby arrives.
Yeah. Betsy, I wonder if there's a parent who's watching this right now and they're like, oh, I don't know if it's worth the investment. Oh, I don't know if this is life coaching is for me. What would you say to them?
I struggled. I truly struggled those first couple of years finding my footing. And when I didn't get it, one of the things that just drives me crazy is that we have this idea that in 12 weeks, by the time they go back to work, that everything is perfect and that they have their footing, and
that you'll
that's
arrive.
that's not the case, because there's stages. But anyway, I just think instead of pushing through and struggling on your own, why not have someone who just happens, partly it's my gift, and partly, I'm professionally trained and I'm certified and all of those things. I have an ability to help people see their strengths that they didn't know they have. And that will make life a whole lot easier. And then you can sit in the joy and find the good things instead of the struggle. And so that's why I think it's totally worth it. And I just, partly because I want mothers to be confident. I would love to do away with the idea of mom guilt.
That would be really great.
The worst thing ever.
Well, and I think too, right, we come into these roles and jobs. Who knew that there were sleep coaches out there, and we do it because we realize hey, this was really hard. And if somebody could have helped me along the way, giving me some guidance, maybe accountability and support, if somebody would have said, you're doing the right things, but let's figure out all the other pieces of the puzzle. How much easier that would have been. Absolutely.
And the other piece of this is even the people who do have their family or their close friends around. And I want to preface this with, I think that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
But sometimes the noise that we're hearing from everybody who is an expert because they have raised a child, although I don't think any of us really know what we're doing.
None of us do.
We're just doing the best we can any given day. But sometimes we need a safe space to just not hear the noise and listen to what's inside of us. Mm-hmm. So that's another thing I think is beneficial about having a coach is I'm able to work with moms. I'm not there to tell them what their mother-in-law or their cousin or their best friend would tell them. I'm there to help them figure out what they would tell themselves.
Yeah. I think that's great wisdom. Again, like figuring out who you are, how you're going to show up in this parenting and parenthood journey.
Yes, absolutely.
So Betsy, before we head out, because I could literally talk to you all day, it's been such a pleasure connecting with you. I'm wondering if you have a self-care tip that you do for yourself that you could share.
Well, this is something I talk to new moms about a lot, because honestly, I think we have pushed self-care and I think it's important. Let me just be very clear. And I actually call it soul care now, instead of self-care, because it's more about taking a breath for ourselves. And that shows up different for everybody. Some moms like to go get their nails done, and some moms like to sit in their car and listen to gangster rap, whatever they feel connected with. I think the most important thing, though, is for moms to understand with infants, with newborns, to understand that what was self-care or soul care before motherhood, before they stepped into motherhood, you'll get back to that. And not that I initially believe in going backwards, but you'll get to that point again. But in the very beginning, like those first, well, it could be first year, I don't know. Or 12, I don't know. But in those, especially in the first couple of months, sometimes a shower is self-care. And I don't mean a long, luxurious shower. I mean like a 5-minute, just get the smell off of you kind of, and that's okay. Because that's what might happen at week 3. But then at month 4, it might be, I'm going to go out to lunch with a friend. And then at month 6, it might be, maybe I am going to go get my nails done or go to a concert or whatever it is that I enjoy and that helps me feel recharged. But it is not something that we jump right back into.
Yeah.
It takes time because you're a new person. When you become a mother, you are a new person. And you're building yourself again. Not to mention like things, you just went through something.
You did. You got all kinds of things happening in your body and you didn't even know were going to be happening.
Right. And I don't know that we can truly prepare anybody for that completely.
Yeah.
But at least to have the knowledge that it happens.
But Betsy, what I love about your self-care tip that you shared is that it will evolve.
Yes.
And like, I think that's the part where like a lot of times we make these assumptions that it's going to look like hair or nails or whatnot.
Right.
But it really is not.
Right. And you might discover that the things that you enjoyed before you had a baby, maybe that changes and maybe you discover something new about yourself. So just something to think about. And I think we got to take the pressure off a little bit.
I love that. Really great points there, Betsy.
Thank you.
It has been a pleasure getting to know you. And I hope everyone will check out betsylaughter.com so they can learn more about you and what you are sharing. And thank you to everyone tuning in here to the Parent Advocacy Resource Team, where we partner with parents to navigate this journey of life and being a family. Bye. Thanks for being here.